Hello, my name is Thomas Fryer. I am a civil structural engineer by profession. I currently work as a project engineer. I've worked as a project engineer and construction manager for a number of projects from conception to completion. Alberta Regional Rail was founded by myself and others to advocate for improved rail infrastructure in Alberta, which is a prerequisite for the introduction of passenger rail services in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor. Tonight, we're going to talk about two technical elements that are involved in regional rail. But first, a quick overview of Alberta Regional Rail. The railroad is a foundational part of Canada's settler history. In many cases, the railroads predate highways and roads. The aim of Alberta Regional Rail is to establish a regional passenger rail network in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor, connecting all the towns and cities, providing an integrated and accessible transportation network. Using the existing Canadian Pacific right-of-way and upgrading the track and making enhancements to the right-of-way to allow higher speeds and an increased number of trains, provide a frequent, fast, reliable, efficient, sustainable, and safe mode of transportation. In order to use the existing right-of-way, Alberta Regional Rail would use CFR-compliant, freight-compatible rolling stock, similar to what is used on Via Rail, the GO trains, and West Coast Express between Mission and Vancouver. Rail is by far the most efficient form of mass public transportation, and various technologies can be utilized that can reduce or even eliminate harmful emissions. In the early days, steam provided the power to move the railways of the world. Over time, due to environmental impacts and power requirements, electric and diesel locomotives took over as the backbone of railroad fleets. Continuous improvements and innovations have made diesel engines smaller and more powerful. The addition of turbochargers have made them more efficient, and the use of after-treatment systems on the exhaust have made them cleaner. A comparison between Tier 1 and Tier 4 engines reveals fuel savings of 10 to 15%, nitrous oxide reduction of 57%, and 90% reduction in particulates. For diesel-operated locomotives and train sets, the diesel engine is used to generate electricity, which is distributed to electric traction motors that enable the train to move. The general consensus for heavy commuter rail transportation in North America is to use locomotive-hauled trains, with the premise that bigger is better, resulting in locomotives with engines greater than 120 litres, producing well over 4,000 horsepower. Far too large and costly for simple commuter services. While in the past, BUD RDCs were widely used, modern diesel multiple units are rare, with only a handful of operators using them. 3,000 horsepower is more than sufficient for a simple passenger train service in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor, and there are many different means to obtain the required power. Diesel-electric bimode. This is a type of train that accesses electricity from either overhead catenary or the onboard diesel generators. This dual mode enables services to operate on electrified and non-electrified lines, and the trains are able to seamlessly interchange between the modes even whilst at speed. Diesel-electric hybrid engines are combined attributes of diesel engines with electric power to achieve high levels of fuel economy and power output. The engine charges the batteries, and the batteries power the traction motors. Combined with the generative braking that aids the recharging of the battery pack, the required engine can be smaller. The hybrid MTU 12V1600R ATL is a 21-litre engine combined with the 15M4P battery system that produces 940 brake horsepower. Compressed natural gas engines operate much like gasoline-powered engines, with spark-ignited internal combustion. Natural gas offers life cycle greenhouse gas emissions benefits over conventional fuels. Additionally, natural gas reduces other engine emissions. Natural gas emits approximately 6 to 11% lower levels of GHGs than gasoline through the fuel's life cycle, and the natural gas engine can also be combined with a bimode or hybrid operation. Hydrogen fuel cells. These engines are considered by many people to be an excellent alternative to fossil fuel engines. Hydrogen and oxygen mix inside the fuel cell, combining to form water. This chemical reaction also releases electricity, which can be stored and used to power the engine. Water is the only exhaust produced by this engine, making it a good option for reducing air pollution. There are many types of fuel cells, but they all consist of an anode, a cathode, and an electrolyte that allows ions to move between the two sides of the fuel cell. At the anode, a catalyst causes the fuel to undergo oxidation reactions that generate ions, often positively charged hydrogen ions and electrons. The ions move through the anode to the cathode through the electrolyte. At the same time, electrons flow from the anode to the cathode through an external circuit, producing direct current electricity. At the cathode, another catalyst causes ions, electrons, and oxygens to react, forming water. It can be comfortably said that the equivalent fuel cell for a passenger locomotive will be smaller and by far lighter than a similar diesel engine. Coupled with the battery pack, the power capacity would be comfortably increased, and regenerative braking could also be utilized. Alberta has abundant sources of natural gas and coal. The hydrogen produced is ranked the second cheapest after Russia. Alberta also has ample carbon storage capacity and the ability to piggyback on existing oil and gas infrastructure. Alberta produces 2,250 tons of hydrogen per day from hydrocarbons. As the cost of renewables like wind and solar drops, water-derived hydrogen through electrolysis could become more abundant in Alberta. Contactless payment systems are credit cards and debit cards, key fobs, smart cards, and other devices, including smartphones and other mobile devices, that use radio frequency identification or near-field communication for making secure payments. The embedded integrated circuit chip and antenna enable consumers to wave their card, fob, or handheld device over a reader. It doesn't require any physical contact between the buyer's smartphone or the credit card and the point of sale terminal. A system that I'm very familiar with, being from the UK, is the Oyster card system in London. Introduced in June 2003, a standard Oyster card is a blue credit card size stored value contactless smart card, which is promoted by Transport for London and can be used in all travel modes across London. Oyster cards can hold period tickets, travel permits, and most commonly, credit for travel, a pay-as-you-go system, which must be added to the card before travel. Passengers touched on an electronic reader when entering and leaving the transport system in order to validate it or deduct funds from the stored credit. Cards may be topped up by recurring payment, by online purchase, at credit card terminals, or by cash at ticket offices and participating retailers. The card is designed to reduce the number of transactions at ticket offices and the number of paper tickets, creating a virtual ticket office. In the early years, there were complaints about the closure of ticket offices, but it allowed station staff to spend more time on the platforms helping customers, especially in central London locations. Since 2014, the use of Oyster cards has been supplemented by contactless credit and debit cards as part of TfL's future ticketing program. And since 2016, contactless payment can also take place using contactless enabled mobile devices such as phones and smartwatches. An example of a similar system can be found in Vancouver. Vancouver area transit riders are able to purchase Compass cards and add fare value online, by phone, or at Compass vending machines located at Seabus terminals, SkyTrain stations, and West Coast Express stations. Compass vending machines are also available at participating retail store locations. Digital tickets are QR codes that hold the same information as a paper ticket. An e-ticket and mobile ticket are two different types of a digital ticket. An e-ticket comes as a PDF attachment to an email, which can either be opened from an email or an app, or simply printed out. Mobile tickets are just like e-tickets, except they can only be opened directly in an app and needs to be activated before use. Mobile tickets can't be shared or used on more than one device. A QR code is a type of matrix barcode that consists of black squares arranged as a square grid on a white background, which can be read by an imaging device such as a camera and processed using Reed-Solomon error correction until the image can be properly interpreted. The required data is then extracted from the patterns that are present in both horizontal and vertical components of the image. QR codes can also be used for payments. QR code payment is a contactless payment method where payment is performed by scanning a QR code from a mobile app. This is an alternative to doing electronic fund transfer at point of sale using a payment terminal. This avoids a lot of the infrastructure traditionally associated with electronic payments, such as payment cards, payment networks, payment terminal, and merchant accounts. To make a QR code payment, the customer scans the QR code displayed by the merchants with their smartphone to pay for their goods. They enter the amount they have to pay and finally submit. This is a more secure card-not-present method than others. Alberta Regional Rail aims to use the latest technology to be a testbed for emerging technology through collaborations with the universities in the corridor and to showcase what can be done with modern technology. Any questions?